Welcome to ARTIVISM, the power of art for social transformation. Today we are joined by Eirini Linardaki, zooming in from Greece, from Crete. She will be presenting Occupy Art Project with some of her collaborators. Thank you to Adelphi University, Goddesden Libraries, Teachers College at Columbia University, and Sing for Hope for sponsoring all these events. This is event number 7. We will continue through to the end of this year, in the spring, and hopefully the fall of 2022. So we can start. Let me quit my share. Yes?
Hello.
There you go.
You can all see my screen?
Yep, we can see your screen.
Okay, well, thank you, Argy. Thank you, all of my artists and curator friends who are here. Thank you to all the students who are watching us. I wanted to start with this image of Occupy 1 in New York, because I thought it was very representative of us having fun putting up the show. This is Natalia and Abraham cutting their vinyl adhesive in the visa room.
Eirini, 1 second. You know what I did forget? Because I'm trying to multitask here all alone. We have our student ambassador, Helena Ortiz. Yes, I know. I'm sorry, everyone. We have a routine. Who goes first, who goes second. I'm usually last in line, so I try to jump on ahead. Part of this initiative involves a student ambassador. We try to involve our young people who will be the change, right? They are our future, by joining in these ARTIVISM events. Today we have Elena Ortiz. She is a bio major hoping to go into dental school someday. She is a minor in art also. So she will introduce Eirini. I'm so sorry, Elena. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Helena Ortiz. I am a biology major and study art math. And currently I'm So my own interest in art actually sparked my career choice because the tactile nature of the dental industry, I felt that paired well with my goals to unify creativity and inclusiveness. So I was really happy to learn about the objective of ARTIVISM, which reflects these goals and become part of it. So I think social change is applicable to most, if not all, aspects of life, and particularly healthcare. So I'm eager to eventually and hopefully take part of that soon. And this makes it special to have the opportunity to engage with these people who have done such amazing work in their own respect. And it's very inspiring to learn of these projects before I'm able to myself incorporate these goals on my own path. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to be a student ambassador for Eirini Linardaki, who stands as a model for what I aspire to accomplish through my own journey, which is geared toward equality and community progress. So I would like to introduce Eirini now. She was born in Athens and studied at LIT Limerick, Ireland, HDK Berlin, and Marseille. She lived in France for more than 20 years. And she now shares her time between the island of Crete, Paris, and New York, developing projects in the public sphere. Her public art collaborations include the City of New York, the City of Newark, the City of Paris, the City of Montreux, France, the City of Heraklion, Agios Nikolaos, and Chania in Greece. And she says, communities are at the center of my practice. Whether I involve elderly citizens, students, schools, or residents from special localities, their participation, journeys, and cultural heritage bring us to an exploratory path together that nourishes the development of these public projects. At this time of historic global crisis, art is helping and serving people in their communities. I believe that right now in history, art is keeping pace with social change and can help youths to express themselves and voice their view of the world. Sometimes persistent social issues knock on our door and enter our dreams, becoming a defining aspect of a useful artistic vision. I experienced this through my research, my practice, and my journey. The complexity of these environments I witnessed in various communities, such as Baltimore Vocational High School, Bay Ridge, Schools of Marseille, and Lower East Side Girls Club. became part of my work expressed through channels found with my students and generated new ambitions for the youths that share these experiences with me. So now, please welcome Ms. Linardaki.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Argy. Thank you to Adelphi University for collaborating on ARTIVISM with so many amazing projects. It's not, today is about, I mean, I'm very happy that you read my bio, but today is about the entire team of Occupy. So we're going to record it so that all the wonderful students and our audience can see it. So Occupy 1 started in New York. It was a form of free cooperative residency, a form of research team. And it started as an experiment within an administration, which was the Greek Consulate General building in New York. So they were very nice that let us play in their building. And we were supported by the cultural services of the French embassy in the United States. The whole project was echoing for me the occupations of schools and other public spaces in Greece when I was younger. I am sharing here some photos, and I'll share some more when my friends and colleagues will be speaking later. After the Occupy 1 opened in February 2020, so just after we had the lockdown. And we were planning for a project in the Embassy of France in Greece, which didn't happen because of the lockdowns in Greece and elsewhere. So the Occupy 2, which was supposed to be Occupy Greece, became a research team. And several of the people who were on Occupy 1 became part of the team of Occupy 2, and they are with us and they can talk with us. We created an online platform and highlighted cooperative and artistic networks. Associated artists and curators opened discussions about political art and art in politics, about how to collaborate in networks. We also spoke about how an artist becomes citizen, about art and accessibility, women's visual and material voice making the public sphere, on collective authorship, institutions, and care, about the artist being between a shaman and workforce or working class, about vulnerability and resistance in the public space. All those were the discussions we had, and I think most of the people who launched these discussions are here today with us. The objectives of Occupy our project as a whole and of this research group of artists and curators is to structure or to highlight dialogue within the art community and its networks. It is to maintain movement in creativity while identifying activist and social initiatives and break isolation for artists who face adversity, which happened to most of us during these last months. To create open dialogue over public policies, which is relevant in many countries. To experiment new paradigms and work models that promote and empower cooperation in the arts rather than follow a patriarchal model in culture. To explore public art as a method, its different forms, how we can occupy public and administrative spaces. We also try to respond to social issues highlighted by the pandemic, to explore new work models which change the structure in the arts. We insisted a lot on the fact that we are a horizontal structure initiative. We also explore how communities can be actors of cultural development, how we can work with the communities, and what is artistic citizenship. In 2022, we're initiating a new research project, an exhibition in New York, which is going to be called Occupy Networks. We will create a map of initiatives and promote art networks. So instead of just creating an exhibition with a group of artists and curators, we're trying to highlight more how all these networks intertwine, how they are interdependent, and how as actors of the arts we inhabit our time and how we nourish our work with the responsibilities that are born specifically from these communities. From also our universal need of belonging and of sharing between us. We want to especially highlight initiatives responding to socio-political change and activism, community-based and public art projects to demonstrate how hierarchy in the art community is shifting and to create accessibility for artistic minorities as well. So hopefully in February. I'm going to start sharing more photos, and thank you. I'm going to pass to Elena Riga, our curator, who is with us.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, kalispera. So my name is Elena Riga. I'm an independent curator based in Athens. Thank you so much for this generous invitation. I'm very happy to be here and doing this online. I do believe that digital public programming has many merits that we had the chance to explore during the lockdown. Oh my God, this is me. I'm going to talk about that if you stay in this image. So to share some history with you, I firstly joined as an artist, as a performer in a way, the project. I'm the co-founder of the art and research platform HD Kepler. And later on, I joined the project with the role of the curator. But in 2020, I activated a score, which was a fruit of my labor with the co-founder of the platform, Florent Frizet. It was about the burnout on the office environment. Since we were working at the Greek consulate, we wanted to explore a little bit more the daily life in these spaces. Well, there was other elements of the work that are not very important to share right now. But it was a great place to be because it's an interesting in-between structure. And we kind of challenge the soft power of these structures with the permission, of course, of the consulate. So later on in 2020 and 2021, we had been in in-depth conversations with the Occupy members and the rest of the expanded network. I think mainly these questions that we posed were the questions that we had for the role of the project of the Occupy, and we took them in public. So as Eirini was saying, it was a lot about the role of the artist and the curator, in a way, in the society, the artistic citizenship, the creation of communities, art in public space, the power of art institutions, since we are collaborating with them, and we would like to know the effect that they have on us and we have on them. And we brought together many people, I think, certainly from Greece and France and New York, but even collaborators from Guatemala City. So I was very happy to lead and co-lead and participate in these conversations. And all this conversation happened online, which is something that I would like to highlight, because it made sense for us to end the digital public programming by questioning the internet as commons. And of course, the internet has a set of rules, behaviors, and vocabularies that reproduce patriarchal structures, but as the public space can act as well as a space of resistance and resilience. So to this point, I think it's important to mention that Occupy project is a fluid structure. Eirini was saying that it's a horizontal structure, which is of course true. And everything is nurtured by the network. And I think we replicate the network responses. So in some ways, we invite and salute our own chaos, which happens through our mutual conversations. And the central element is something that will accompany us to the next step. And personally, I have found myself in the intersection of these networks as a fellow or collaborator of some of these initiatives that were developed alongside or together with the Occupy project. So Long story short, I'm looking forward to develop the projects on site as well and have a larger impact on the global and local communities we would like to serve. And just a note for the future, if you don't speak, please mute yourselves. That's all from me. Who's next?
Okay, I have you in order of appearance. So I think the next one is Julian. Julian Gardère, one of the artists who was on Occupy 1 and Occupy 2.
Hi, everybody. So yeah, I thought I could just share a few pictures of one of the pieces I made there. So as Eirini was saying, we were in the consulate, so this kind of pre-formal space, and we're on every level of the consulate. So the consulate is made of like 4 or 5 different levels with different offices, and François Thibault will talk about different, like a more private office later on, I think. And the space I'm going to talk about right now was the waiting room of the consulate. So it was kind of like a formal and cute space where people could wait until their appointment at the consulate. And I presented a series of works there that I framed with this frame that was on one side kind of like neoclassical, kind of like inspired by the antique Greeks, and they were expanding fragments of potteries from the Met, and the location of the consulate was actually just a few blocks from the Met Museum in New York. And so I got from that collection a series of fragments of potteries and extend them with just like India ink as little drawings. So it's kind of inventing what we didn't have anymore from the pottery. And on the other side of these pieces, they were put on it doesn't work. It's great. Okay. On the other side, that's the same piece, but the other side, we had like a little booklet made out of, on the left, immigration paperwork from Greeks coming to the US in the 20th century, and on the right are the fragments of sculptures from the Met collection of Greek antiquities, and they were cut out in a way that's like nothing is removed from the cutout, some from the booklet. So basically, you like this frame, so you cannot flip through. But if you flipping through the pages, you could actually both decompose and recompose the images as they are in the booklet at first. And these were put in this room. So that's the room I was talking about. And you see there's about 7 of them on the table. In the back on this big TV screen was a video from Cédric Emenier, another artist who currently lives in France, I think. And we made this video in Greece. And so that's the screen where visually they were just showing kind of like touristic videos of like claiming the beauty of Greece, and instead he put this video where he was like filming in a rather enigmatic way some a building, just like a concrete, like a kind of brutalist, like in the way it was there, and it was like a brutalist architecture, but that was maybe just also just the beginning of the construction or an abandoned construction, I believe in the 20th or 21st century, but that looked on this like amazing landscape, like almost like a antique ruin, or like a ruin to be, or ruin already, or we don't know really what it was, but it was playing lovely with this idea of like what was shown there usually. And when you see for the window is 79th Street, so that's like all the vibrancy of like Upper East Side. And that's a closer look of this. So there was, yeah, they're all different. And then, so that this room was in the morning public for this for people to come wait for the appointment, and the afternoon when the consulate is closed, that's where they are having like important meetings, such as here when we have in the center with the pink jacket, the ambassadors of Greece visiting, I believe from DC, the consulate that's on the left, who actually lived there. So that's a very formal meeting that was, and this picture was taken by a journalist who was also happened to be one of the artists, and the show, and that was published in among others in the Greek publication. So it was just kind of funny to see how the piece could actually being part, like being out of place or just like in its real place, actually coming into like this newspaper. And I think that's it, maybe, right? Can I stop this share? Thank you. Here you go.
I have to say the piece by Cédric Emenier is called Kill Acropolis. And it's both a construction that had begun, not finished, and was abandoned. So it was in the south of Crete. He came to show his work here in Crete and filmed this in Agios Pavlos. So it was very interesting. Thank you. Yes, we forgot to mention that we basically we all went and got paired with the people who work in the administrative offices. And there are some very nice views. François Thibault Gansna is the next one, who I think worked in the army office of the consulate.
Yes, indeed. Firstly, thank you to everyone for inviting me for this meeting, and especially thanks to Eirini for inviting me on this project. And actually, I've been very interested by the project because I used to do like public artwork before to leave to USA in France or even in UK. But most of the time when I did this kind of project, it was a very formal invitation and I have to apply for specific things in order to settle in or to set up my artwork in this public space, visiting by very people that use the environment. And it was the first time that someone asked me to occupy a public place and to be introduced in a space very unique, because you know, I don't know if I should to say I exhibit my artwork in New York or it was in Greece, because definitely a Greek consulate, it's actually a diplomatic enclosure belonging to Greece. And technically, I was not in New York when I was exhibiting my artwork over there. And so I was very interested about this kind of situation. We are in between, as was saying Eleni. So it was a kind of lost in translation between New York and Greece. And as you know, this kind of building have their own rules, but it's a very specific enclosure with not anyone is invited to get in, or when you are getting, it's for a very an appointment or very specific moments. So yeah, so for that, firstly, I was very enjoying my exhibition over there because since a while in my artwork and at my career, I'm very interested by the notion of heterotopia. I don't know if you know that, developed by Michel Foucault. It's a French philosopher who was talking about this place, who are a part of our public space, like a cemetery, nursing home, but actually not a lot of people are going in or are not invited in. And so definitely I was, I think we are questioning this kind of location in our environment. And indeed, for my project, so I'm going to share my screen with you. I exhibit this project named Untitled Phantoms, and this project was following another project I did in 2019 in Abrams Art Center in Lower East Side. And the first project, it was a project with two other artists who were musicians, and there was a Baroque singer and electroacoustician. And they involved me in this project in order to be the stage director, the scenographer of the show. And so they were two on stage. And so obviously the show had been recorded, and so from this recording I took off many photographies of the show, and then I cut off all the silhouette of the two guys, and then I just turned back off the silhouette in order to have a white and virgin surface. And then with all this white silhouette, I try to reenact what occurred on stage during the show, or even doing something new. Finally, I decide to superimpose all these silhouettes in order to do somewhat like somewhat slow motion moments were in stage. And then finally, I decide to just show up 3 groups of these silhouettes, and in order to exhibit them, to kind of quote of what occur on stage, I draw on a cardboard, like you know, a ground rooms with floor tiles, and this one is drawn with very strong perspective in order to amplify the theatrical impression, and as well, you know, I decide to work on a cardboard, because for me, like, cardboard could remind like a pocket theater, that I use them like just a canvas. I didn't unfold the cardboard, for the viewer of the artwork, the cardboard can be used in so many ways, like just a useful element, or as well like this one, like exhibition surface. And indeed, I occupy the military office, where young Greek guys were invited to get there in order to be enrolled for the army in Greece. So I don't know if my artwork helps them to have a nicer moments when they have to fill out their form to be involved at the army in Greece. But yeah, and so I don't know. Yeah, that was a very nice experience.
Thank you, François Thibault. François Thibault, as Eleni and Julian are all part of Occupy 3 as well, Occupy Networks. And so is Suzita Guduna, who I think is with us somewhere. Suzita, can you hear us?
Yes. Hello. Nice.
Suzita is also the founder of Greece in USA, which is one of the networks we're going to have. Do you want to say a few words?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Eirini, and for inviting me to participate initially in the forum. For me, the concern was to also provide some visibility for contemporary Greek artists. This is the reason that I invited Vasilis Elpistis and Katerina Christidi to participate, and it was parallel to the creation of Greece in USA, which has similar strategies in terms of having visibility for artists and for participating without hierarchies, trying to invite curators in the future and fundraise to create multidisciplinary projects in various sites in New York, having always a focus on the live aspect of art, inviting visual artists to also experiment with live elements inspired by Performa Biennial and our experience there. But also we started with focus on social justice and art, and you also participated in the project on the right to silence. So for me, Occupy raised very important issues that actually moved some movements in Greece and tried to also bring very interesting organizations from Greece in the US. And we look forward to participating in the next project.
Thank you, Susita. Thank you. I mean, Eleni, Susita, and Julian and François Thibault participated in some extremely interesting debates and discussions. Some of them were initiated. I mean, all of them were initiated by this wonderful team. Also, Melanie Levick is still with us. Melanie, are you still with us?
Should we ask François Thibault
Yes, I am.
to unshare his
Do we have Melanie with us?
Yes, I am here.
Hey, Melanie.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? So Melanie was part of Occupy 1, 2, and soon to be 3. So we have collaborated in many projects, but you initiated a very interesting conversation from that had to do with your research. Do you want to tell us a few words about it?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm just trying to share something, but I can't get the slide to show up. Let me try. Damn it. I'm just gonna cycle. No, can't do that. Sorry, this looks very messy.
It's okay.
I'm sure you can cope. Yeah, so I was rereading the Odyssey, this time for the first time translated by a woman, Emily Wilson. It was kind of quite a hailed translation. And I've been obsessed with maps for a long time. And when Eirini invited me to participate, you know, at locations such as the Greek embassy, obviously that was very exciting because I've always had a lot of interest and obsession with classical texts and stories and locations and archaeology and all those things. And they come together in funny ways, I guess. And I've also always liked maps. And that kind of intersects with my feminist practice, and rereading the Odyssey that Emily Wilson describes and how she describes Penelope, it kind of made me think about Penelope in a very different way. And I started experimenting with these maps. And this is actually an incomplete triptych. So one's still missing, and it still is. It was then, and it still is now. So this was one of them. So what this is actually just a collage of nautical maps that I've kind of reconstituted. And in a way, it's quite an abstraction. You might not necessarily see what it is. The prints were quite big, but I want to make them bigger. I actually would like to make them room size. And if you can't tell what it is yet, you might be able to tell in a minute. This is another one of these collages that I made. And it came from very, very simple beginnings in terms of, that was the floor plan for the first one. So that's a little kitchen layout. Although I've added a very Greek thing because these are supposed to be pithoi. Is that how you pronounce it? How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, more or less.
Please correct me. I never knew how to say it. And this is a little layout I put together. Again, it was a collage that I did before of Penelope's weaving room. And it was really me thinking about how the public space and the private space and how those are still very difficult spaces, how we inhabit them in our gender differences, and how Penelope's creative labor is still held in such high regard, but only because she destroyed it every night in order to remain to be a respectable woman. And that always, excuse my language, that always really pissed me off, even before I read the translation by Emily Wilson. So in a way, I just reimagined Penelope's spaces, so her weaving room and her kitchen as different kinds of spaces, or what they could have been if she'd had the agency to travel freely. And there were a couple of other things. I mean, this is kind of in a way it was a series of images. This top image was, and that's included in the map here at the bottom, like a little kind of wayfinder. No, it's not there, it's this one. Like a little wayfinder. And this is actually taken from the website of, so it's slightly, I've doctored it a little bit in Photoshop. And I've changed the window a little bit, and that's taken from a model that's displayed on Ithaca as the potential kind of how the Odysseus house palace must have looked like. So I just took this kind of close-up of the model of a photo. I repurposed from a website and I changed it a little bit. And this is from a Greek real estate agent side. And I love real estate agents' photos, because there's something there that really fascinates me. And again, I just made those two windows match. And to me, that kind of then ended up becoming Penelope's kitchen. On the weaving design, I included this image of lots of businessmen going up and down in, God, what were these things called? Paternoster. It's a paternoster. They're like really dangerous. Nobody's allowed to have one like these anymore.
They're elevated.
They're like a step on, step off elevators, but that motion also kind of reminded me of the weaving motion. So and that idea that her suitors were always at her balcony and she wasn't really free because of that constant pressure. I mean, this is a very kind of, I'm not really going to be able to describe all the other things that went into it. I did quite a little bit of writing about it. And initially it was supposed to be called Penelope's Staycation, but I thought that was a bit too frivolous. Oh, do you want me to talk about this, Eirini? Okay. Yeah, and then we moved on to, during our talks, we ended up having a little talk about women's visual and material voice making in the public sphere. And we were really lucky. We were joined by a group of great people having a little discussion about the difficulties. And it was interesting because the first project was just before COVID. And this was obviously right in the middle of lockdowns. And, the reports of how, although lockdowns have been bad for everybody, but how it was very, very difficult for women in particular, because they were pushed back into spaces that they hadn't necessarily been confined to. And so there were lots of reports. On the other hand, we were trying to talk about how do we bring our creative voices out and how do we make that space. So.
Thank you, Melanie. So kind. I mean, those talks were so interesting for me, and I'm so grateful for the people. It seems like lockdown was about 5,000 years ago now, because it was such a closed space. It wasn't so far ago, wasn't it? So thank you, Melanie. Thank you for continuing to do projects with me, as for everyone here. I'm
thank you.
So grateful. I do have here more people from our team. I think we have Vincent Mérignac somewhere. I saw him. I know he's here. Maybe he's not anymore. Vincent, I see you. So Vincent was in Occupy 2. He's a French artist who lives in Athens. He's also part of the initiative Nukmas, which is an artist-run space in Athens. I'm sorry if I'm not equally sharing my knowledge about every one of you. Vincent, do you want to tell us a few words?
Yeah, it's midnight here. So I think it was like short and interesting. You know, I'm a visual artist based in Athens, and we opened a place in an artist's run space in Kypseli in Athens, where we showcases especially like the young Athenian visual art scene. And yes, COVID made us not being able to do exhibition for a long time, so we had to reinvent ourselves and to find other solutions. And yeah, Occupy was one of those solutions that made us having a link with different initiatives, that was some of them really close to us, and some of them that were really far away. So it was also like a really interesting initiative for that, to keep a link between different places and keep knowing that new ideas shows up, and during a time that we couldn't see much. But yeah, as you say, like, it's really funny. I couldn't find the button to mute myself at the beginning. Like I forgot all of this, like Zoom habits, you know. And now, so yeah, so now I don't know. It was really interesting initiative, and I'm really curious to see how it, spreads and develops right now. And I think that's all for me.
Oh, thank you, Vincent. Vincent is also part of Occupy 3 networks with his artist-run space. I also see that Anne Shostrom is here. Anne, do you want to say something? I don't know, because I don't see her. It's muted. No? Okay. So one thing that I want to say is that what we understood through our collaborations is that we all are part of different networks. Even Vincent, who's not really a curator, you're a visual artist, did organize a talk about networks, right? Because of Kypseli, which I don't know how to translate in English, called Regarder en réseau, look as a network. How would you translate it?
Mm-hmm.
And he managed to bring together people from theater, bookstores, artisan spaces, and curators in film to create actually a very political talk in about a year ago from now, right? Which was very heated, I remember. So it caused us some problems as a group, which I enjoyed. So this is from our team, Argi. I don't know if any of your students have any questions. I do see that we have Aristides Logothetis with us, who is the executive director of ARC Athens. He's also a visual artist. He's going to be part with ARC Athens of Occupy 3 in February, Occupy Networks. Aristides, are you with us?
I'm with you.
Hi.
Hi.
Aristides is going to be part of our talk on Thursday, where we're all going to be there as well. Let me find the visual for that. So, and Argi, I pass the floor, is that how we say it, to you? And
Okay.
if some of the students have something to share, I will, or to ask any of the artists. Here is our invite for Thursday.
I think that Eliana will kind of wrap it up and then give it back to me and Carolina. So Eliana?
Yeah, so we just want to thank you, Ms. Linardaki, and all of her collaborators that joined us today. And please join us again this Thursday, October 21st at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time for a panel discussion led by Eirini with participants from both sides from all over the world.
Oh, thank you, Elena. That's so sweet.
And before we open the floor, we also, for questions or comments, we ask that you participate in the poll. Is there a poll?
I didn't set one up.
Okay.
So any questions, comments? Thank you all for being here. This was very interesting. Thank you for staying up super late on the other side of the world. Any questions, any comments? I was interested in, at some point you said something about artist and shaman, Eirini. You said,
yes.
I bring that up a lot in my classes, how the artist has, not always, but in some sense, the artist has become almost shaman, especially in times like these with the pandemic and quarantine and working from home. We seem to have become the means by which we deal with things, right? A voice for those who can't express themselves, or even teaching others to express themselves through some form of art. And for me, right, art is everything. It could be, visual, photography, theater, dance, music, even cooking, right? It's all arts. So what did you mean by the artist, the shaman, specifically with Occupy?
First of all, that was a discussion that was led by Gelgi Pulu, who I think is having a baby tonight.
Ah.
So ask her now.
Yes, ask her now, right?
She couldn't be with us, really. But we do love her very, very much. And it came from a very long discussion. And I think Eleni was part of this discussion also, where we were debating whether we are working class or if we're some sort of other actors in this life. So I was debating, I thought we were working class with some sort of right to transgress boundaries. I think shaman came from a Gilki, and I found it very interesting. Eleni, do you remember any of that discussion?
I think you sum it up well. It was about the artist's exceptional role in the society, because a shaman is not a human like everybody else. But no, I don't remember the specifics. And right now it would be a bad timing to call a Geliki.
I don't think so.
She's still in artificial pains. We know that.
Yes, we are not calling her. She's part, Ageliki is a professor at the University in Athens. She's also part of Media Electronique, and she was part of our curatorial team together with Eleni and Suzita for Occupy 2. She's very motivating. All these discussions were amazing because they basically touched the entire spectrum of activist and social issues we have now.
Was Joseph Beuys mentioned in that conversation?
I don't remember. Was Beuys mentioned as a shaman? Well, I mean, I imagine he had his space there, but I can't remember.
Well, just a note, Yves Citon, the French philosopher, was also invited in this lecture. So I'm not sure that the conversation went to Beuys.
Yep.
I have the, I'll share the visual from the talk, because it was the one before the last one. Here, just a second. Voila. Argy, anybody else from your side has any questions?
Let's see, does that Carolina? Any comments?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Carolina, you're here.
And of course, thank you so much, everyone, for this marvelous presentation. I would like to ask maybe a couple or as many as would like to jump in. What would be a takeaway from this presentation for our audience today to inspire that change, that transformation that we'd like to see in our society? So, Ms. Linardaki, would you like to start it off, and then perhaps we can ask the other presenters to chime in?
Yes, Carolina, from my end, I didn't hear your entire question. Can you say it again? Sorry about this.
What is the key takeaway from today's presentation from your perspective that will inspire action for the audience members that would like to keep going with their transformative work in changing today's society?
Carolina, I think from tonight, the best thing I see is that a lot of people from our team are here, which is amazing because it is midnight for a lot of people here. I think the secret on my end is cooperation and interdependence. I think we all believe in it. That's from me. Whoever else wants to say something.
If I may say something, I don't know what's the key takeaway of the presentation today, because for the members of Occupy team, it's things that we have heard before or know about our practices and our common practices. But I can answer this way. The key takeaway of Occupy project for me is its fluidity and its horizontal structure, and the fact that there's never one way of doing things, and we have to constantly reinvent new ways of collaborating, who are equally important along the way.
Thank you, Eleni.
And Suzita?
I would agree with my colleagues, but also the transformative power of our experience through COVID and the year of this kind of incapacity to be present has, I believe, transformed us in such a way, in a positive way as well. Through the problems that we faced, we have become more humble, and this fragility of goodness, like Nussbaum would say, is very impactful for collaboration. It has changed completely the way we thought we've seen and our beliefs about collaboration. And we have to now step into this second phase of this transformative practice of what we learned during COVID.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a short remark. Yes. Well, thank you for presentation. Nice to see you all, whom I know.
Hi, Alexander.
Yeah, and I'm passing past the Greek consulate like literally every day. So thank you for calling the 79th Street a vibrant part of New York. Take it personally. Anyway, my question is, like this Occupy paradigm, if I understand it correctly, it's about entering existing infrastructures or existing institutions and then bring something additional to it. Now, I think what changed during the last 2 years is that these established institutions are more open now. So they want to be occupied. They want to attract more diverse people. Well, perhaps Consulate is not the best example because it works with the demographic profile. But when I'm thinking about like museums, like uptight museums that were like really not very accessible, they're changing educational institutions and so on and so forth. Do you think that there's a different dynamics in the future, like in the near future? And how can you make the best use of this openness, because it may not last forever?
Oh, you're right. Well, you work at the Met. You can answer a few of these questions. No, I do believe that you're right, Alexander. Thank you. That we have, as a whole in the art world, trying to shift how we work with our communities. And I think part of occupying an administrative or a public space is actually working with a community, in my perspective. When I was a student in Greece, when I was going to high school, occupying our schools was a way to be heard. Okay, it's a way to say, I have an opinion about my education. I want to be heard, even though I'm a student and I'm not, the Ministry of Education. So that, for me, that's mainly where it was rooted. We are artists and curators. We have opinions about how we can cooperate with our community. In that case, it was actually cooperating with the people who worked in the administration. In some cases, in some of our artists, there was also a constructive critique of an administration, of the life of an administration. I was very agreeably surprised at how they cooperated with us. I don't know that it would be the case for every consulate to cooperate like this. But in a way, what I mean is basically occupying the space, is opening a dialogue within the community and addressing an audience that is different than the audience of an art gallery or a museum. That's from the perspective of that specific project. But I think my colleagues may have very different perspectives. Go, Melanie.
Yeah, I don't have a different perspective. I just thought that there was something about doing the Occupy at the consulate was particularly interesting because it's such an institutionalized space. And actually, I remember at the time you were always talking about the people who were actually working there day to day and the stories you were hearing about their daily struggles, the things they were having to deal with. And I think often those kinds of spaces, especially when they're institutional, they dehumanize us. So for artists to come in and, to actually try to connect back to people in that space who are kind of the public face of something that they are part of, but actually there's a lot more to them than that. I just thought that was really interesting and quite touching. I was quite interested in that kind of, that officialdom on one side, the people who represented, but actually all those other layers underneath that often we as artists are particularly interested in unearthing, making visible, materializing. So I thought that was just really a lovely opportunity.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you all. Yes.
Thank you. No, sorry, I was just saying, I do remember that during her performance, Eleni did, so I don't know how to say it properly, Eleni, but she did move from one space to the other, performing the experience of an overtired public employee or whatever it was. And it was funny because some people did confuse you for someone who actually belonged there and was part of like sleeping on the photocopier, sleeping on the bench. And it was funny because some people were like, came to me, I was like, what is this person doing? There's an exhibition happening, right?
True. But the intervention was mostly camouflage. So all the gestures were studied in a way that reflects reality. And even people from Occupy were confused of the actual burnout and the fictive burnout. And one of my dear colleagues who is an ambassador and moved from Athens to New York actually thought that I'm not talking to him while I was doing the performance. So the camouflage was very successful. But just on the question, I was thinking in general that the consulate, it was quite an achievable goal because we wanted to introduce contemporary art in their daily life and challenge the power and hierarchy softly. But I think the question was referring also to other type of institutions that have this strategy of internalizing and normalizing different voices, even when they're most open. So I just want to say that the consulate was quite different. We might encounter these spaces on other communal projects that we are thinking of working with in the near future. So there would be a bigger challenge. Anyway, that's all for me.
Before we go very quickly, I want to introduce you also to Eirini Ampomogli. Eirini is from Athens and Crete. Hi, Eirini. Because our ARTIVISM initiative is growing, and we have a presence now, not just from South and Central America, but also from Europe. We needed a European base, and Eirini is our artivist member of our team in Greece. So hi, Eirini, do you want to tell them very quickly a little bit about your Vegeta project and how you came up with it?
Hello. Yes, very quickly. Well, my let's say first touch of socio-cultural initiatives was well, beginning with my feminist background. It was an initiative to create a feminist project in a small village in Crete, which was called the Vegeta Project, in a village, as Linardaki Eirini will know very well, from the mountain of Psiloritis, where women lead very traditional lives. So what I wanted to do is to talk to them, learn about their lives, and see how their lives change while generations change. So it was an intergenerational project where the older women would learn from younger women and vice versa. That was my cultural project. I'm very happy to be here. I was very amazed by what you did with all your Occupy Art projects. Yeah.
Thank you. No, thank you, Eirini. Melanie, didn't you show me her project? Didn't you show me Vegeta?
I think it was a link we got sent, but then I remember you and me talking about it. It's a brilliant project.
It is.
I absolutely love it.
It was you, Argy, who showed it to us. It's an amazing
yes,
project.
it may have been me. Yeah, and the beautiful thing is that the women in the village were so happy to share their stories. And what Eirini, prior to COVID, was hoping to do was to keep that narrative, that vision going. So long after Eirini left the village, these women would then be empowered to continue teaching, speaking. And I hope you loop back in. I know they're all waiting for you. They want to get back into all of this. So these are projects that, as artists, right? We like to share our work, inspire communities in groups, right? And then once we leave, have what we left behind work on its own, leave it in the hands of those, right? So even in Occupy, some of your art that maybe stays there continues to inspire, right? Other artists, other people that come and go. So it's not just we go, we show our work, we put our pretty work up on a board and leave and be done with it. When the show's gone, our work is done. Now art is shifting in a different direction. We create our work, we show it, and we want something to remain behind, right? We want our work to inspire change, to inspire young people, to continue. It doesn't just end when the show is over, right?
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I think, even though I showed artifacts earlier, but actually my interest in artifacts is limited. I'm interested in the process, and I'm interested in the labor that gets left behind in people. rather than the labor that just ends up in an artifact. I mean, I know we all love artifacts and we like nice things, but actually so much of it remains hidden and it's not valued in the same way. But it's exactly all that stuff that you've just talked about.
It's what we inspire. It's what we aim to change. It's empowering, right? It's being a part of change and inspiring all of that. And that's what this whole ARTIVISM is. And the great thing about this initiative is I'm gonna hold you for just 2 more minutes, is how when we set out to just have a simple, Zoom kind of event because of COVID, where we meet each other in this virtual space, what happened was the collaborations that have risen between our presenters and our students. We have students interning with organizations. We have organizations working with each other, supporting each other. I know with Carolina, we were talking about getting a newsletter out because there's so much that happened. It's so hard to keep track of, right? We have Bake Back America that is supporting Felicia's Promise. We have students interning at these different places, if not live, then via Zoom. So yes, our students may be contacting you, right? For advice, for inspiration, for resources. That's what we are all about. We believe in a form of reciprocity, right? We're giving you this platform to show your work, to talk about what you do. What we want in return is to be there for our young people and for each other. Okay?
Thank you.
Please be back on Thursday. Yes, go ahead, Eirini.
Back on Thursday, please. It's the same time. It's a discussion about public art as a form of community. Aristides from here, Eleni, Suzita, and Melanie will all be here with us. So hopefully I'll see you there all. Thank you for giving us this time. Thank you for everyone who is here. I love you all.